What if one of the most important things you can do for your health after 40 has nothing to do with a miracle supplement, a complicated diet, or a drastic routine? What if it begins with something so basic that your body cannot live without it for even a moment? Blood flow. Every second of every day, your circulation is working behind the scenes. It is carrying oxygen. It is delivering nutrients. It is transporting hormones and chemical signals. It is helping remove metabolic waste. It is supporting tissues as they repair themselves. And yet, most people do not think about their circulation until something goes wrong. That is the surprising part. The health of your blood vessels is not just a heart health issue, it is a whole body issue. And for women, especially as the body moves through the 40s, 50s, and beyond, understanding the relationship between circulation, nutrition, movement, hormones, sleep, stress, and metabolism can change the way you think about healthy aging. Because when people hear the phrase blood flow, they often imagine only the heart pumping blood through large arteries. But your circulation is far more complicated. It is an enormous network. Large arteries divide into smaller arteries. Smaller arteries divide into tiny vessels. And eventually, blood reaches microscopic capillaries that are close enough to individual cells to exchange oxygen and nutrients. Your cells live in an environment shaped by circulation. That means the condition of your blood vessels influences far more than your pulse. It influences how tissues receive resources. It influences how the body responds to physical activity. It interacts with metabolic health. It interacts with inflammation. It interacts with blood pressure. And it is affected by the foods you eat, how much you move, how well you sleep, whether you smoke, how you manage stress, and the health conditions you may or may not know you have. This is why the conversation about women's health needs to become broader. Instead of asking only, what should I eat? We should also ask, what does my overall lifestyle tell my blood vessels every day? Because your body is constantly receiving signals. Your meals send signals, your activity level sends signals, your sleep sends signals, stress sends signals, even long periods of sitting send signals. And over months and years, those signals can influence how resilient your cardiovascular system remains. This is where nutrition becomes especially interesting. Food is not simply fuel. It is information. Every meal changes the chemical environment inside your body. Different nutrients interact with hormones, enzymes, the gut microbiome, blood sugar regulation, and cellular signaling. That does not mean a single meal dramatically transforms your health. It means that patterns matter. Repeated exposure matters. Consistency matters. Imagine a small stream. One drop of water does not determine the direction of the stream, but thousands of drops flowing in the same direction eventually shape the landscape. Your daily habits work in a similar way. One healthy meal is not a magic event. One poor meal is not a catastrophe, but the pattern you repeat becomes biologically meaningful. And this is one reason healthy aging should never be reduced to a search for a single superfood. There are countless foods that contain useful nutrients and beneficial plant compounds. But the strongest lesson is not that you need one specific ingredient. It is that your body benefits from diversity. Think about the colors on your plate. Leafy greens, red and orange vegetables, blue and purple berries, beans and lentils, nuts and seeds, whole grains, fish or other protein sources appropriate for your needs, herbs and spices. Each category contributes different compounds. The goal is not perfection. The goal is variety. When you eat a diverse range of minimally processed foods, you expose your body to a broader range of nutrients and naturally occurring plant compounds. Some of these compounds can interact with pathways related to oxidative stress, inflammation, metabolism, and vascular function. But this is where we need to be careful. A food can be healthy without being a cure. A berry can be nutritious without being medicine. A vegetable can support health without detoxifying your body in some magical way. A healthy fat can be useful without eliminating every cardiovascular risk. The body is more sophisticated than any headline. And that sophistication is good news because it means your health does not depend on finding a secret ingredient. It depends on building a supportive environment. Let's make that practical. Suppose you start your morning with a breakfast rich in fiber, protein, and whole foods. Maybe you include oats, nuts, fruit, plain yogurt, eggs, beans, or another combination that fits your needs. That meal can help you feel satisfied, it can provide nutrients, it can contribute to steadier energy for some people, and when such choices are repeated across many days, they become part of a nutritional pattern that can support metabolic health. Now add movement. You take a walk, you climb stairs, you do resistance exercises, you stretch, you dance. Something as simple as regular movement tells your cardiovascular system to adapt. Your muscles become more active users of energy. Your circulation responds. Your body receives a different set of signals than it would from sitting all day. Now add sleep. Your nervous system gets an opportunity to recover. Now add stress management. You reduce some of the burden placed on your mental and physical systems. Now add preventive health care. You know your blood pressure. You understand your cholesterol. You have your blood sugar checked when appropriate. You discuss symptoms that concern you. Suddenly you begin to see the larger picture. Nutrition is powerful, but nutrition does not act alone. It works as part of a network. That network is what healthy aging is really about, and this becomes especially important for women. The physiology of women changes throughout life. Puberty creates one set of hormonal changes. Pregnancy can create another. Perimenopause and menopause bring another major transition. And these changes do not happen in isolation. Hormones interact with many systems of the body. That means the way a woman feels in her 40s or 50s may be influenced by changes in sleep, temperature regulation, mood, metabolism, body composition, cardiovascular risk, and sexual well-being. This is one reason the period around menopause can be confusing. A woman may say, I'm sleeping differently. My energy is different. I'm more stressed. My body feels different. My interest in intimacy has changed. My weight distribution has changed. My exercise recovery is different. And sometimes she is told that's just aging. That answer is too simple. Some changes are part of normal biological aging. Some are related to the menopause transition. Some are influenced by lifestyle. Some are related to medications. Some may be signs of a medical condition. And some can be improved with appropriate care. The body deserves more than a dismissal. It deserves curiosity. If a change is persistent, painful, sudden, or interfering with quality of life, it deserves discussion with a qualified healthcare professional. This is particularly important when it comes to cardiovascular health. For decades, many women have been conditioned to think of heart disease as primarily a men's problem. But cardiovascular health is central to women's health too. Blood pressure matters, blood lipids matter, blood sugar regulation matters, smoking matters, physical activity matters, sleep matters, stress matters, family history matters, and nutrition matters. The circulatory system is not separate from the rest of the body. It is the infrastructure that connects the body. That is why protecting blood vessels may be one of the most important long-term strategies for healthy aging. But how do you actually support your blood vessels? There is no one food. There is no one exercise. There is no one supplement. There is a pattern. And that pattern begins with the basics. First, stop thinking that healthy eating requires perfection. Perfection is one of the fastest ways to make a healthy lifestyle unsustainable. Instead, think about what you can add. Can you add another serving of vegetables? Can you add beans to a meal? Can you choose whole grains more often? Can you include nuts or seeds when appropriate? Can you choose fish or another nourishing protein source? Can you make fruit part of your regular routine? Can you reduce your dependence on heavily processed foods? These may sound like ordinary choices. That is exactly why they are so powerful. Ordinary choices can be repeated, and repeatability is one of the most important ingredients in healthy aging. A person does not need to eat perfectly for 10 days. They need an overall pattern they can live with for years. That is a completely different goal. And this is where fiber becomes especially interesting. Fiber is found in many plant foods. It helps support digestive health. It influences the gut environment. And some types of fiber can affect how quickly carbohydrates are digested and absorbed. A high quality dietary pattern that regularly includes fiber rich foods can fit into a broader strategy for metabolic and cardiovascular health. Think about beans. They are simple, they are affordable in many places, they contain fiber. They also provide protein and a range of micronutrients. Think about oats, think about lentils, think about vegetables, think about fruit, think about nuts and seeds. These are not exotic ingredients. They are foods that have been part of traditional diets across the world for generations. And sometimes traditional food wisdom deserves more attention than a new trend. Now, consider healthy fats. Not all fats behave identically. Unsaturated fats found in foods such as nuts, seeds, avocados, and many fish can fit into heart-supportive dietary patterns. But the important point is not to turn one category of fat into a magical solution. Again, the pattern matters. The composition of the whole diet matters, and your individual health situation matters. A person with a specific medical condition may have very different dietary needs from another person. That is why general principles are useful, but individualized medical advice can be essential. Now let us think about blood sugar. Your blood vessels are constantly exposed to changes in the internal environment. Repeated metabolic stress is relevant to long-term health. That is why balanced meals, regular movement, adequate sleep, and maintaining appropriate body composition for your individual health can be meaningful. And there is something fascinating about muscle. Muscle is not simply tissue that helps you move. It is metabolically active. Your muscles use glucose, they respond to insulin, they adapt to physical activity. That means strength supporting exercise can become an important part of metabolic health. And again, you do not need to become a bodybuilder. You can begin with simple resistance exercises suited to your fitness level. You can work with your own body weight. You can use bands. You can use light weights. You can work with a qualified professional if you need guidance. The objective is not to punish your body. It is to maintain its capacity. That distinction becomes increasingly important with age. Healthy aging is not about looking like someone in their 20s. It is about preserving function. Can you walk comfortably? Can you carry groceries? Can you climb stairs? Can you get up from a chair? Can you balance? Can you recover? Can you participate in the activities you enjoy? Those are meaningful outcomes. And physical capacity can influence confidence. Confidence can influence mood. Mood can influence social connection. Social connection can influence well-being. Again, we see the network. Everything is connected. Now let us talk about sleep again, because it is one of the biggest pieces of this puzzle. Sleep affects how you feel, but it also interacts with metabolism and stress regulation. When women enter perimenopause and menopause, changes in sleep can become more common. Night sweats may interrupt rest. Stress may increase. Sleep patterns may change. And once sleep is disrupted, everything else can become harder. You wake tired. You have less energy. Exercise feels harder. You may crave convenient foods. Your stress tolerance may be lower. And the cycle repeats. That is why treating sleep as a core health habit is so important. Create a predictable routine. Give yourself enough time for rest. Address your sleep environment. And when persistent sleep problems occur, seek evaluation. Snoring, interrupted breathing, chronic insomnia, or severe daytime fatigue should not simply be ignored. Your sleep is part of your health. Now, consider stress. Women frequently carry invisible workloads. They manage households. They care for family. They support children. They help aging parents. They work. They organize. They remember. They plan. They coordinate. And much of this labor never appears on a calendar as a formal task. But your nervous system experiences it. Chronic stress can affect sleep. Sleep affects energy, energy affects activity, activity influences metabolism, metabolism influences health, and health influences how you feel. This is another reason nutrition should never be viewed in isolation. You can have the perfect meal plan on paper and still feel terrible if you are chronically exhausted, isolated, overwhelmed, or unable to rest. Health is not only what you eat, it is also the environment in which you live. That includes emotional health, that includes relationships, that includes whether you have time to recover, and this is important for women's sexual health as well. A woman can have healthy blood vessels and a nourishing diet and still experience changes in sexual well-being because of stress, sleep, relationship challenges, pain, hormonal changes, medication effects, or mental health. That does not contradict the science. It demonstrates how interconnected human health really is. This is why there is no single explanation for every woman. There is no universal formula. The responsible approach is to consider the whole person. What changed? When did it begin? Is it related to menopause? Did a medication change? Has stress increased? Is sleep worse? Is there pain? Are there other symptoms? What is happening with cardiovascular risk? What is happening with physical activity? These questions can point toward useful next steps. And this is one of the most important messages women need to hear. You should never feel ashamed to ask about your sexual health. A symptom does not become less real because it is intimate, and asking about it does not make you difficult. Your comfort matters. Your quality of life matters. Your relationships matter, and your health matters. Now, there is another surprising link between circulation and nutrition that deserves attention: the gut. Your digestive tract is not simply a tube that moves food through the body. It is an active biological environment. The gut is home to trillions of microorganisms. These microorganisms interact with food components, they produce metabolites, they communicate with the immune system, and they influence aspects of our physiology. The field of gut health is complex, and scientists are still uncovering exactly how different dietary patterns affect different people. But one principle is fairly practical. Your gut microbiome benefits from dietary diversity. And dietary diversity often comes from eating a wide variety of plant foods, vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, herbs, spices. Different plants provide different fibers and compounds that can interact with the gut environment. That is one more reason variety matters. Now let's think about inflammation. Inflammation is part of the body's normal defense system. You need it, but chronic inappropriate inflammation is associated with many chronic diseases. Diet, physical activity, sleep, stress, smoking, and metabolic health can all influence inflammatory pathways. This does not mean you should label every food as anti-inflammatory or pro-inflammatory. Those labels are often too simplistic. Real diets are mixtures. Real bodies are complex. What matters more is the overall pattern. A diet rich in minimally processed foods and plant diversity combined with physical activity, good sleep, and other healthy habits can contribute to a supportive environment for long-term health. And again, we return to the blood vessel because blood vessels respond to the internal environment. Healthy vascular function is dynamic. Blood vessels can expand and contract in response to signals. The inner lining of blood vessels, called the endothelium, plays an important role in regulating vascular tone and communicating with the rest of the system. That means the health of the vessel wall matters, and that health is influenced by many factors. Physical activity can support vascular responsiveness. Poorly controlled blood pressure can damage vessels over time. Smoking can harm vascular health. Metabolic disease can affect vessels, and diet can influence many of the underlying risk factors. This is why a circulation-focused view of health can be so useful. Instead of thinking about isolated symptoms, you begin to think about the systems that support them. Now imagine a woman in her late 40s. She is sleeping poorly. She has stopped exercising regularly because she is exhausted. She relies heavily on highly processed convenience foods because she is busy. Her stress is high. She has gained some weight. She feels less energetic. She is less interested in intimacy. She assumes that all of this is simply menopause. But notice what happens when we zoom out. Maybe some of the changes are indeed related to hormonal transition, but perhaps there are also changes in sleep, changes in activity, changes in metabolic health, changes in stress, changes in nutrition. Maybe several systems are contributing at the same time. That means her next step does not have to be searching for one magic solution. Her next step can be an assessment, blood pressure, blood glucose, if appropriate, lipids, medication review, menopause discussion, sleep assessment, mental health, physical activity, nutrition. That is a much more intelligent strategy. Now, imagine another woman. She is 60. She walks regularly. She does strength exercises. She eats a diverse diet. She protects her sleep. She maintains relationships. She attends preventive appointments. But she notices persistent discomfort that is affecting her quality of life. She should not simply say, "I'm old now." She deserves evaluation too. Healthy habits do not make someone immune to health problems. They simply improve the foundation. And that is an important distinction. A healthy lifestyle is not a guarantee. It is risk management. It is support. It is resilience. It is an investment. You can do many things correctly and still need medical care. That is not failure. That is biology. So let us leave behind the idea that one food is responsible for all health. Instead, think in terms of patterns. What do you eat most days? How much do you move? How well do you sleep? How much stress do you carry? Do you smoke? How is your blood pressure? How